The rain fell in whispers, a soft curtain over the world, as I sat at my weathered oak desk. The lamp's dim glow flickered, casting long shadows that danced across the sealed envelope before me. Amara, I'd scrawled, my hand trembling, the ink bleeding where I'd paused too long. 3 years had passed since our last words, hers sharp with anger, mine weak with excuses. At 52, I was a father who'd lost his way, my daughter a stranger across a chasm I'd built. Our fights had started small, my late nights at the factory, her teenage defiance, missed moments that piled like bricks. When she left at 18, the door slam echoed in my bones. I thought she'd return. She didn't. The letter was my confession, born after the doctor's verdict. 6 months. I wrote of my failures, the recitals I skipped, the hugs I didn't give, the love I locked away, thinking duty was enough. I saw her in my mind, her dark curls bouncing as she sketched, her eyes fierce with dreams. I sent the letter to her city apartment, picturing her fingers tearing it open, her heart softening. Weeks turned to months, no reply. I called, my voice cracking on her voicemail, but silence answered. The envelope sat unopened. I felt it, a weight heavier than my fading body. The rain blurred the streetlights outside, mirroring my regret. I remembered her 5th birthday, her laughter as she twirled in a yellow dress, calling me her hero. Where had I lost her? The letter held my truth. I was flawed, but she was my everything. The cancer gnawed at me, my hands weaker daily, yet her absence cut deeper. I gripped the desk, whispering her name, hoping it might reach her. The lamp dimmed, and I saw her face, defiant, beautiful, distant. I prayed she'd read my words, know I'd trade my life to hold her again. The rain sang its mournful song, and I sat, a broken man, clinging to a letter that might never be read, to a love that might never be felt. The hospital bed creaked under my weight, its cold metal a stark contrast to the warmth of our old home, where Amara's crayons once littered the floor. Tubes tethered me to machines, their beeps a cruel metronome counting down my days. I was down to weeks, the doctor said, but my heart clung to her, my daughter, my unopened letter. 6 months ago I'd sent it, tracking its journey like a sailor watching a ship vanish. It reached her, but no word came. I imagined it on her counter, buried under takeout menus, ignored. She was 21, carving a life I'd never know. I didn't blame her. I'd been a shadow in her youth, chasing paychecks, thinking a roof was love. I missed her art shows, her quiet tears, the moments she needed a father. The silence between us was my doing, sharper than the pain in my chest. A nurse handed me the photo I kept. Amara at 10, grinning on a swing, me pushing her skyward. My fingers, frail now, traced her smile. The letter held my soul. Regret for choosing work over her, pride in her fire, how her mother's strength lived in her. I wrote of losing her mom, how grief made me distant, how I failed to bridge that gap. I begged her forgiveness, told her she was my sunrise. Would she read it someday, after I was gone? Would she cry or turn away? The thought choked me. A priest offered prayers, but I only wanted Amara's voice. I whispered, "I'm sorry, my girl," to the sterile walls. The city buzzed beyond the window, and I wondered if she was out there, sketching in a cafe, free of my shadow. I didn't want her pain, but I needed her to know I loved her, even when I faltered. The photo trembled in my hand, her laughter echoing in my mind. I closed my eyes, seeing her soar on that swing, her joy my only light. The monitors droned on, and I prayed she'd open the letter, that my words would find her heart, even if I couldn't. The room faded, and her face carried me into the quiet. The factory whistle still haunted me, its shrill cry pulling me from Amara's childhood. Nights I'd come home late, her drawings taped to the fridge unnoticed. I thought I was building a future, but I was losing her. Now, in the hospital's dim light, I saw it clearly. The letter was my last chance, written in bursts between coughing fits, each word a plea. I described her first sketch, a clumsy sun over a house, her pride beaming brighter than the paper. I told her how I kept it, folded in my wallet, a relic of when we were whole. I wrote of her mother's laugh, how Amara inherited it, how I failed them both after the cancer took her mom. The letter begged her to live boldly, to never doubt her worth. I sent it, hoping it would crack the wall between us. But her silence screamed louder than my illness. I pictured her apartment cluttered with art supplies, the letter untouched. Was she still angry? Did she think I didn't care? The truth was, I cared too much, but showed it too little. A volunteer brought me tea, her kindness a fleeting warmth. I asked her to mail another letter, a desperate repeat, but my voice was too weak to explain. The photo of Amara on the swing lay beside me, its edges worn from my touch. I saw her at 16, slamming her door, shouting, I didn't understand. I didn't, not then. Now, I'd give anything to listen. The hospital window framed a gray dawn, and I imagined her waking, sketching, her hands steady where mine shook. I wanted her to know every choice I made was for her, even the wrong ones. The letter was my voice when my lungs failed, my love when my arms couldn't hold her. I whispered her name, a prayer to the dawn, hoping she'd feel it across the city. The tea grew cold, the monitors beeped, and I clung to her memory, her curls, her fire, her light. I didn't know if she'd read my words, but I hoped they'd linger, like a song she'd one day hear. The dawn broke, and I held her in my heart, always. The funeral was quiet, a handful of mourners under a slate sky. I was gone, the cancer claiming me days before, my letter still unopened. I dreamed Amara might come, that my death would draw her to my words, but she wasn't there. Months later, she sat in her apartment, the envelope staring at her from a cluttered table. It was creased, stained, pushed aside in her whirlwind life. At 22, she was an artist, scraping by, her heart scarred from our years apart. Something, grief perhaps, or a nagging ache, made her reach for it. Her fingers hesitated, then tore the paper. My handwriting spilled out, raw and urgent. She read my apologies, my memories of her sketching at dawn, my regret for every missed moment. You're my greatest gift, Amara, I wrote, and I'm sorry I wasn't enough. Her breath caught, tears blurring the ink. She hated me for leaving, for writing too late, but she read on. I told her of the swing, her yellow dress, how her laughter kept me alive. She saw me in the words, not the distant father, but the man who loved her clumsily, fiercely. She sobbed, wishing she'd called, wishing she'd forgiven. The letter ended with my plea, live my girl, you're enough always. Amara pressed it to her chest, feeling me in the paper's weight. She didn't know if she could let go of the hurt, but she wanted to try. Her apartment was silent, the city hushed beyond her window. She looked at her sketches, seeing my shadow in their lines, her art, my pride. The letter didn't erase the pain, but it was a bridge, fragile but real. She'd carry it, unopened for so long, now a tether to me. I wasn't there to see her tears, but I hope she felt my love, hope she knew I never stopped. The wind stirred outside, carrying my whisper, I'm with you, Amara. She stood, the letter in her hand, and stepped into her life, not whole but healing. The sky cleared, and maybe, just maybe, she heard me in the quiet, my love eternal, my daughter forever mine. Amara walked through the park. Weeks later, the letter folded in her pocket, its words now part of her. The autumn leaves crunched underfoot, their reds and golds a fleeting fire. She was 22, but felt older, the weight of my absence heavy yet softened by my words. She stopped at a bench, the one we'd sat on years ago, her small hand in mine, her laughter bright. She read the letter again, my voice clear in her mind. I'd written of her strength, how she'd faced the world alone after our fights, how her art was her heart on paper. I saw you, Amara, even when I didn't show it, I'd said. She traced the words, her fingers steady, her tears dry now. She remembered slamming doors, thinking I didn't care, but the letter showed me watching, loving, failing but trying. She wished she'd answered my calls, wished she'd seen my illness sooner. The park was quiet, a sparrow hopping nearby, its simplicity a mirror to my plea, live fully. Amara smiled faintly, the first in months. She pulled out her sketchbook, drawing the bench, the sparrow, the sky. Her lines were bold, infused with me, my love, my regret, my hope. The letter hadn't fixed us, but it gave her a piece of me she'd lost. She thought of my funeral, her absence, a wound she couldn't heal, but she forgave herself, just a little. The wind carried the scent of rain, and she felt me in it, not gone, but woven into her. She'd carry my mistakes, my love, her art a canvas for both. Amara stood, the letter safe in her pocket, her heart lighter. She'd live, not just for her, but for the father who saw her, even when she couldn't see him. The sparrow flew, and she watched it soar, whispering, I love you, Dad. The park faded behind her, but I was there, in her breath, her steps, her art. She was enough, always, and I hope she knew it now. The sky opened, and my love held her, eternal, unbroken, across the stars.